I'm 12 Tone, you're awesome, and in this video I'm interviewing Mia, the freak. I call her the freak, and we get into why during the interview. Mia is a multidisciplinary artist based in New York, mega talented. She works a lot in theater, and that's how I first met her. In 2022, Mia started talking with me about maybe recording some stuff. She's a really inventive songwriter and her singing is out of this world. So I was definitely interested in pursuing that. And in 2023, we started actually working on an album with me as a producer, arranger. I play a bunch of instruments on it, etc., etc. That album is now done. It's out. It's called All Too Much. If you haven't heard it yet, pause this video, go give it a listen, and come right back here. And while you're paused, hit like, hit subscribe. There will be more interviews with my collaborators, so definitely hit subscribe in order to catch those when they come out. But this video is Mia. We had a lot of fun chatting. Here it is.
Do you do an intro like a little jingle?
Mia, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Honored to be here.
Absolutely. You're here because your new album, All Too Much, just came out, which I produced with you. We're going to talk about the album, we're going to go deep on it, but I want to start at the very beginning.
The very best place to start.
That's right. Tell us where you're from, where you grew up, because it's going to figure in, I think, to this whole conversation.
Yeah, I agree. I am from Monterey, California, born in San Diego, and left at age 5.
You have your prepared script.
I was thinking of the script.
We're going to be going on script eventually. You can hang out with it as long as you want, but I'm going to pull you off it eventually. You're being a good actor.
I was born at a young age. I'm from Monterey. And NorCal. Central Cal.
It doesn't count?
It's NorCal, but
I need to know this before I...
Yeah, it's Nor. It's Nor. It's technically Central California.
Okay. Like the true NorCalers would be like, get the fuck out of here, don't say that.
Yeah, but we're not SoCal either.
Right.
Yeah, I grew up in California, and I spent every summer of my life at Interlochen in Michigan, which also feels like a home. And I moved to the city for school in 2017, and I go back for undergrad, which I didn't finish, but we'll get to that
We're gonna
later.
get to it, for sure.
And yeah, I've been in Brooklyn since moving here, but I go back to California every chance I get.
And you have two parents who are musicians. Two musicians who are parents also. Yes. They contain multitudes.
They do.
I feel like that figures in. But I do want to talk about coming to NYU because, you know, you have this duality to what you're doing. You do theater and you do music. And I feel like you were able to work on both like throughout your whole childhood, and then you come to NYU. And my impression of you coming to NYU was like you wanted to do mostly theater. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I in high school got into choreography.
Choreography?
Yeah. This is related, I promise.
No.
But I grew up doing musical theater at Interlochen. And then in high school, there was a really good dance program at Carmel High School, and we were allowed to choreograph a dance, and we could costume it and do lighting, and I ended up making some music for it. It felt like you could just make everything. And so I went to college wanting to be trained in as much as I could, but still within theater. Like I ended up at Playwrights Horizons Theater School at NYU. And you could direct and design and act and move. I think that's everything. Direct, design, acting, movement.
Sing, perform, yeah.
Yeah. So it was very much like coming at creation from all angles. So I did really want to do that, but then I left school because I primarily wanted to perform theater in 2019. Yes. So
you come in wanting to, but I guess still all of that falls in the bucket of like performing on stage, performing in theater, I would say.
Yeah.
Do you feel like your priorities by the time you left, which is early, You left before graduating. By the time you left, did you have different priorities, would you say?
Yeah, when I left, I was really hungry to start working. A part of me went to NYU because there were so many amazing people who went to NYU and left. Lady Gaga, famously.
Oh, yeah.
Kristen Milioti, I think.
Oh.
Natasha Lyonne.
I didn't realize. Okay.
Yeah, so I think there was a part of my brain. I thought I would graduate when I went there, but there was a part of my brain that was just thinking, like, this feels like a good stepping stone to working because you're in the city and you can feel comfortable and, like, a sense of community, and then you can start working. So I left school very career-driven, and I entered school more interested in, like, making art from all angles. Was
there like a show that pulled you away from school for a semester? I feel like this is how it goes with some people. They get pulled away and then they just never come back.
Yeah. I auditioned on a whim for this show called Riddle of the Trilobites, which was directed by Lee Sunday Evans, who I love.
Yes.
And it was a children's puppet musical about trilobites, and we were going to do it in Flint, Michigan. And I got the audition through a woman that I had met named Elby Yost, who's really wonderful. And I auditioned, and I got it, and I just decided to leave. Like, it felt like the right move, and many people were confused by that choice at the time. And then a few months later, I got my first New York show, which was In the Green.
In the Green, okay. I was going to ask where that figures on the timeline. So your first professional show was the Trilobites.
Correct.
Show.
In Flint, Michigan.
Okay. Yeah. So you had to physically leave New York. And
I had to physically leave New York.
That would do it. That would do it. Okay.
Yeah. And you saw In the Green.
I did.
Which is potentially the first. I don't know if we met.
We met later.
Okay.
But I saw you.
With your peepers.
And it was, I mean, that's, where I think of, your career as a professional actor starting. I didn't realize you had this thing before it. But, you were in this amazing Grace McLean musical. And I feel like from the first moment I saw you performing, this nickname that I have for you, the Freak, what was like immediately what came into my mind. Because, well, in this musical, it's an entire, basically, musical transpires, and then you come in for the last, like, third.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I had 45 minutes of downtime, and I would do so much in those 45 minutes. I would do the 7-minute workout backstage to Grace McLean singing, like, the third song of the show. It was great, but I come in really late.
I mean, Grace wrote herself a show where she basically has to stand on stage by herself a lot of the time and just absolutely throw down in this amazing way.
Yeah.
So you see an entire musical of Grace doing that, and then more people start to join, and then you come on. I feel like you're kind of the last of this, like, trio or quartet of people who finally joined Grace on stage. And you, just the sounds that came out of you were unbelievul. And I just remember being like, who? Because I knew everyone else in the show. I was like, who the fuck is this? And, it's like, well, if Grace wanted this person, like, clearly this person's been around and they know what they're doing. And obviously you do. And then I got to know you more. And my concept of you as a freak has been just more and more cemented. Yeah. Because I feel like what it comes from is, like, there are so many talented people in the city, but you are just very excellent at so many things. And
likewise.
Oh, thank you. But I really feel like with your voice, you have this freaky ability to, like, produce a really interesting sound at every part of your range, and you have this, like, huge range, not just in notes, but, like, just your instrument. Yeah, and I want to talk to you about training it, but yes, I lovingly have called you the freak.
Yeah.
And I feel like you've received it with the intention that it has.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you've helped me embrace the word. And yeah, Feb 8th, we share a birthday.
We do.
And I think we share a freak.
I feel a little freak in me.
Oh,
I feel
my
like
God.
I got a little freak.
You got a big freak in you. The best people do. The best people do.
And the thing about sharing this birthday at this time of year, we're filming this in January, we're entering the peak of our powers.
It's true, yes.
When people cannot possibly hold back the freak.
Yeah.
Other times of the year, people can kind of skirt around.
Right.
There's no avoiding the freak.
Yeah, a freak tsunami approaches.
A freak nami.
I have a question for you.
Yeah, totally.
What do you feel like is can you describe your freak? And like the freak at the height of its powers, like what does that freak feel like for you?
I think the freaky thing for me is I feel like I'm pretty good at a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Like
very good.
The thing you don't have to be amazing at a lot of things to be a standout in whatever your field is, but if you're basically average at everything and not bad at anything, that is its own kind of freakiness, because most people have these like peaks and valleys in their skill levels and what they're able to put up with and execute. And I'm kind of just pretty good at everything, so that's its own kind of special sauce. But I think like my real superpower, it's not, again, this is not like a virtuosic thing, but it's that I can combine ideas or people or sounds that are just unexpected, that I just see connections that most people don't see.
Yeah. So
there's nothing, I feel like there's nothing really particularly special about me. It's just that I'm willing to do lots of things and combine lots of things that most people aren't.
Yeah. I think I really admire your consistency. Like, I feel like you show up every day to the plate in some way, be it producing someone's album or working on your own music, or even being like an informed citizen. Like, I just think you're really good at not being passive, and I really admire that, and I think that's part of your freak.
It's a freaky feeling. Yeah, I hate autopilot. I hate it, and like other people, hate's a strong word. It just is the thing that drives me crazy when I feel like someone's not locked in, and I don't like to be around people that have that vibe. Like, I just feel like I'm losing my life force.
Yeah,
when I'm around it. It's like you're sucking it out of me with your autopilot. I mean, everyone's got to have their autopilot moments, you know. I'm not trying to get on the subway and like
be super present.
Yeah. You know,
making eye contact with people.
Sometimes you just got to get through shit.
Yeah.
But I think you know what I mean.
Yeah. I think making this album with you, the biggest lesson it taught me is like showing up to the plate every day. I've showed up to this studio, and before this studio, your apartment, like sleepy, groggy, like just you're never gonna be at 100, or you're rarely at 100, and so I feel like making this with you has taught me that like the most important part of art making is just showing up, making a date, showing up on that date. Of course, we canceled sometimes for sickies or other reasons, but it's so important to show up and be like a little, I don't know, angry that day or not very creatively in tune with yourself, and just try to make anyway.
We're almost never at 100% in life, like on any given day. And you gotta just, you can't be your own enemy. You have to just power through. Obviously, there are times when you shouldn't power through, and you'll know when that comes. But most of the time, you should probably just keep moving. And like the secret, I don't know, like the secret hack or whatever is like, if your B+ is just better than most people, because most people are just gonna be at a B+ most days or whatever. Like, if your B+ is better than most people, you're gonna do great. Like, there's no way that Lady Gaga, you know, or Natasha Lyonne are like feeling it every day, and yet what they deliver, you know, really electrifies us. And I feel like, yeah, you and I had to definitely talk about things where like your listeners are going to feel excited about what you're giving them, even if you're being really hard on yourself about the product that's getting put out.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, I am very proud of this album
too.
we made. And part of your freakiness is also, it's not just that you're an amazing performer, but you have a really freaky mind for writing. You just have like a really indirect and unexpected way of approaching writing, at least to me. So I want to talk to you a little bit about developing your skills first before we go deep dive in the album, which I'm excited to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to talk to you about like your skills, how you developed as an artist, both as a performer and a writer, so we can see where the freak exactly comes from. So we talked about NYU. Let's go a little before that, because I know how much like your parents and Interlochen have influenced you. So choose your own adventure. Where do you want to start? Should we go chronologically?
February 8th, 1999.
Perfect.
No. Yeah, my parents, I think...
Did your parents know about Interlochen and kind of push that on you first, or did you discover that and they...
My dad worked at Interlochen. He was...
Oh, right.
Yeah. So he's a lifelong symphony conductor and artistic director. And he, I think, was hired the summer before I was born. But I remember people calling me an Interlochen baby because I was, like, very new to the world. So I would go every summer, and then I think I started camp at 9. And I was so excited. But I had all of those summers leading up to just run around in nature, which I think is very important to how I think about creativity.
Yes.
And to see so many concerts and see so many young people. I think I'm not going to try to guess the amount of campers. I'm really bad at guessing numbers. But thousands of kids from all ages gather, and one of my favorite things about Interlochen is you walk through a forest and there's practice huts everywhere, and so you can just hear like a vocalist practicing an aria and then a piano player practicing their piece. Like you can just hear every different musician practicing. And so from an early age I was like in tune with music. But I hadn't thought about writing until, I'm going to say high school. I think that's when I started thinking about it as a genuine, valid way to spend my time. But yeah, my parents were huge to my love of music. And they did push the violin on me when I was around 4. And I hated it.
You say that the writing, I guess... Maybe you're saying like your awareness that you could be a writer is coming in around high school, but I know of a video that your dad took of you. I guess it's just audio, where you are a very young child and your writing instinct is like a fucking fire hose.
I told my mom I made a promise all day new. And I made a promise every day I didn't go on the skate park. Yes, I didn't. Yes, I didn't. Yes, I didn't. Yes, I didn't. The only choice is no, that I can't take it anymore. All the skateboards in the world turned into flowers, so I never went up there again. Never so, never, ever, 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 ever. Just, oh, that's my last try, and I didn't do it, so I gave up, and I never did it again.
I think that's your favorite track of mine.
Is
that song.
Yes. that needs to be on your next album. No, I don't know.
Missed opportunity. Oh, that would have been perfect.
I think we talked about it. I think, well, anyway, off camera we can have another convo. There's much more for you to release. You have a bright future.
Thank you.
But yes, I think having heard that recording, it was evident very early that you had this writerly instinct. But so what I'm hearing from you is like you didn't feel it, like kind of at the front of your mind until later.
I always say that theater feels like the gateway drug to a lot of creative people. Like we aren't encouraging children to write as much as we are like do a play or a musical, which I think is a shame. But I feel like it took me until high school to trust my creative voice. But up until then, I was just performing in musicals and being really fulfilled there. Mm-hmm. But, I didn't think I could write. I thought that you had to know, like, piano really well or guitar really well. And voice was my primary instrument from, I'd say, like, 9 onward. I think 9 is when I started taking lessons. So it took me a really long time to realize that was enough and that you can make music without being able to, I don't know, be a soloist at Carnegie Hall or whatever as a piano player.
So, Dad is conducting, music directing. Mom is playing clarinet, right? Mm-hmm. Which, foreshadowing. It's going to come up in the album. Mm-hmm.
I keep wanting to look at the camera.
You can spike the camera if you want.
Foreshadowing.
Dun, dun, dun. And at Interlochen, it's mostly musical theater, concert music. Am I getting this right? It's mostly like more traditional formats, would you say?
It was. It was for sure. We did have a brand new singer-songwriter program when I was there. And Kaylee Rose performed a song, and we were like, who is this girl? And now she's Chapel Roan. So that was, like, the beginning, 2014, I feel like Interlochen started to kind of accept new forms of art making. But very, very traditional camp overall. Yeah.
Wait, so were you overlapping in years with
Chapel Roan?
Kaylee Rose?
Kaylee Rose. Technically. Legally, yes. But I didn't meet her.
This is a deposition, so it's important that you get it right.
Okay. Legally, we overlapped, but we did not speak.
Right.
I just saw her perform, and she was amazing.
Had she done many years? Do you know much about
I think she had just done 1 year. I think she just did 1 summer.
Got it.
But she played a song called Die Young, and she's so small, and her voice was so, like, deep and low. At the time, it was thrilling. Yeah.
Okay. So, you're getting really good training at Interlochen.
Yes.
You're putting in all these summers, which I think is just so invaluable for young people.
Absolutely.
I kind of wish I had done it more. This is how you and I are different, is like I was kind of wandering around, like barely even doing music a lot of the time in my early life.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
crazy.
I feel like I came to it.
Because you taught yourself guitar later, right?
I did. Yeah, like around 14.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. Before YouTube existed, we had to download the videos off the internet. So I would like pick one video, download it, and then like stop and watch the fingers moving. And
my gosh,
it was crazy.
Dedication.
I mean, I went to a great private school also, and I was getting general music training, but I wasn't like my classmates were already like virtuosos, which was very disheartening actually.
Totally. I felt that at Interlochen too. Like being around the top tier as a kid is so humbling.
Yes.
But what it taught me, I think, was it gave me a hunger to like really strive and feel like I was never good enough, which has pros and cons.
Oh yeah.
And so I think by the time I hit college, I was much better than I realized because I was so convinced in my head that I was so bad and I needed to be here because that kid has already been on Broadway and they're at 12.
Yes, totally.
That makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. I sort of felt that way about college in a lot of different classes. Like I only realized how good of an education I got as a younger person
later.
yeah, when I started actually like leaving that space and being like, oh.
Yeah.
So you're getting this amazing training. You're really developing your instrument. Do you feel like you always had access to your voice the way that you do now? I don't mean like the skills and all the things, just like the way it feels in your body.
I will say I grew up, you know, in Monterey. We have a beautiful home in the mountains, and I realize now that neighbors could hear me, but I didn't know that neighbors could hear me. So I would sing all the time, and I think a neighbor told my mom one time on the street, like, so you sing? And she was like, my daughter sings. So I was like, Wicked was a big musical for me when I was 9.
Heard of it?
Heard of it. Really deeply obsessed, and I would sing all of those songs. I think into the mountains. I would like open the door.
Like Maria style.
But skrelting. Like Maria, but imagine if The Hills Were Alive was like poorly placed belting.
Julie could never scratch. She was not capable.
Oh my gosh. How dare you?
No, this
Julie
is not
could
her.
never. No, true.
I can't screlt.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Are there any traditional, classic, beloved musicals? Now you can pull your script out. Are there any like classic ones that you feel like you've always wanted to do that you still haven't done? Roles?
Oh.
I don't need you to endorse the whole musical, but maybe you like a role.
A role. I've always felt a weird like 1 foot in, 1 foot out with musical theater. And so I feel like I should have a list, but I kind of don't, because I've done mostly new musicals, and I'm most excited about new musicals. But I auditioned for Waitress recently.
Oh,
and
yeah.
if you remember?
Yes, I remember. You would be such a good fit.
And I sang one of the songs, the big She Used to Be Mine, that big song, in high school as a part of the dance show. I just love that song, and I love Sarah Bareilles.
It's a great song.
It's a great song. So I would love to play that part. Shout out to Jenna in Waitress. I also would love to do She Loves Me. I've recently thought about that show. It's, I think it's Sheldon Harnick and Jerry Bach, I want to say, are the writers. But I don't normally feel drawn to like more golden age sounding musicals, but that I just like found out about that show in high school, and I would sing it with my opera teacher at the time.
Hell yeah.
I'm trying to lean into opera more.
Yes.
Personally. Octet is my favorite show by Dave Malloy.
Yes. Okay. We're transitioning into. I want to talk about your favorite composers too.
Yeah.
Octet is such a special show.
It's such a good show. I've been listening to it recently.
Oh
my gosh. Amazing people, and it just gets better with every listen. It's so dense, it's so rich.
Yes. He really is good at adding many layers. And theater, musical theater, it's this tradition where you're trying to write so that most things are like encoded so that you can receive it once, you know, because it's a live audience. You receive it once, you understand, and you can leave, and you can sing the songs and retell the story and think about the themes. Dave, I feel like, thinks differently. He's like, let me build in these layers of meaning that reward revisits.
Yeah. And it's such an interesting, like, it's a show about the internet and the digital age. So to have something that's even better on, like, through repeated listening on your phone is kind of funny.
Yes. And you did a Malloy musical recently.
Yes.
Which was?
Three Houses. At Signature Theater.
In the same theater that Octet did.
I frequently said that I felt like I won a fan raffle. Because it's like same team.
Same team.
Two of my castmates were in it.
You got to be directed by the GOAT.
By the
Annie
GOAT.
Tip.
Annie Tip. My gosh. Yeah, I felt like I won something.
That was... When was that?
Last spring.
Spring. Okay, so kind of a while ago at this point.
Yeah, time has passed. But I think he's a genius. And it was so cool to be so obsessed with Octet and then get a window into his process. That's been my favorite part about doing new musicals. It's just like observing the writer and seeing how different people write.
Yes. And already, I mean, I feel like a lot of actors aspire to be on cast albums. And you've already gotten to be on 2, right?
Yeah, I mean, Three Houses is going to come out later, but yeah. 2.
Yeah, it's not out yet, okay.
Yeah.
So it's In the Green.
In the Green and Three Houses.
Three Houses.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Any thoughts for actors out there who've never done a cast recording? Any tips or things that you got to keep in mind that are different from normal?
Yeah, I mean, this is, I could talk about for an hour,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I've learned so much through, I looked at the camera, I'm going to say that
It's okay, tell them.
I've learned so much. I've learned so much from making this album with you in terms of destigmatizing the recording studio, like relaxing in the studio. I remember In the Green cast recording, first of all, I think it happened like the day before I helped someone move and I inhaled so much dust.
Holy shit.
Which was just so stupid.
Oh
so dumb. But I remember stepping into the studio for the first time and not being nervous at all. Being like, we just did the show. We just closed the show 4 days ago. I'll just do the show. And then, like, just being in the silence of the recording studio, I felt under the microscope. I started to panic.
You put the headphones on, you can hear every little thing, not just you, but that everyone's doing.
Yeah. And, like, there's, like, people watching you behind a glass. It just feels like you're being interrogated. Like, it's so intense. And I think it would be very fruitful for, like, theater programs or music programs to get their singers in studios in school, just to feel what that feels like, because it's so different. You can't move as much. Like, I remember the amazing music director of In the Green, Chris Kukul, telling me, like, that you should kind of over-enunciate when you're in the studio, just because, like, I don't know, to try to give the microphone more, but I just felt like I was in a whole new world. So, from there to here, I'm so proud of how much I've relaxed in the booth, and I guess my advice would be to, like, get into a studio, even if you make it yourself, even if it's your closet, just practice singing into a microphone in silence, which is so humbling. But you just gotta relax in there. And so I think it's like performing in any capacity. It's like auditioning. You have to calm your mind, calm your body, and get in there and be okay with being seen.
Yes. I feel like that's fantastic advice, especially this thing of, like, it's kind of impossible to simulate what it's like.
Yeah.
You need to just find a way to get a microphone in front of you and get the headphones on.
Yeah.
Even if it is in your closet, like, just to see what it feels like, because it's a strange feeling.
Yeah.
So we've talked about Dave Malloy, who is a big figure in New York theater. But yeah, you've spoken about Lovingly. We've spoken about Grace McLean, who I know you love, who I know you adore.
Yeah.
I want to talk about other composers and just artists in your life who influence you, who you know, who are, like, around you. One last thing I feel like I want to connect with the Grace McLean of it all is, I imagine, I'm going to take a guess at something, I want you to tell me if I'm right. She is a composer who does not rely heavily on accompanying herself with a piano or a guitar like a traditional songwriting instrument. And she has found just unbelievable success in her writing and getting produced straight up. Was that an unlock for you when you saw her? I mean, in 2019, you're in a musical for her, and you get to see someone do it without a piano.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
I feel like I credit her with so much in terms of me calling myself a songwriter and me pursuing it. It blew my mind that she would, like, loop her own voice or use GarageBand or Logic to just layer herself, which is my jam.
Yes.
Now, yeah, she does it all with her amazing voice, which has capital R range in every way. And then she would take it to a friend who can orchestrate and make it into a piano part or a guitar part. Like it just made me realize that process doesn't look like one thing. So she was so influential. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I love looping. I still want to learn to loop.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But you are, you're really heavy with the layering in GarageBand, and that's its own technique that's really powerful.
Yeah.
Let's keep branching out to other people around you who have been around you, who are still around you. I want to talk about Gavin Creel.
Yeah.
Big influence for the album, because we're going to start talking about the album too. Tell us about Gavin.
Gavin was one of the most special people on the planet, and I feel like most people who knew him would say the same. Amazing Broadway performer with decades of legendary experience.
Yes.
I was lucky enough to cross paths with him over the pandemic. That's kind of when we became friends. But I met him at TPAP, which is a different performing arts summer program that I did, which was also really important to my growth as an artist and creator. Which was, at the time, it was at Wake Forest University in North Carolina. And Gavin came in one day for a master class, and I sang She Used to Be Mine from Waitress. It all comes back to Waitress. And we just connected that day. It was one of those like magic master class moments. And we were trying to meet for a while, but he was so busy, obviously. And the pandemic gave all of us time, as we all were at home and scared that we would never perform again.
Yeah.
But Jonathan Bernstein, who's the, I think you've met.
Love.
We love Jonathan. We love
Shout out.
Shout out to JB. He set up a Zoom lunch for the three of us, and I think he shared my song. I don't think it came out yet, but my song 2 Years with Gavin. And afterward, Gavin emailed me or texted me and just said that he wanted to start a songwriting group with just the two of us. And so we gave each other prompts, and 2 of the songs on this album are direct results of that group, Olive Tree and Feeling a Song. And it was such a beautiful space to, like, both of us were just like, we want to create something even if it's bad. Like, we just want to generate. And I was so honored to be sharing space with him, and he is the most uplifting person, and made me realize that I had value and that my dreams were worth pursuing. Yeah. Yes.
Fostering the writing. Yeah, I saw him as recently as the Into the Woods. Where was that? Encores. Yeah, amazing. But unfortunately, Gavin has left us. But his influence lives on in all over New York, all over the world. But you did something beautiful, didn't you? Dedicate the album to him?
Yeah, it's definitely dedicated to him.
Yeah, and even just from the outside, I could tell his influence was big, because when you first sent me the demos of Olive Tree and Feelingless, the file was called Gavin. Clearly an influence, or at least just an encouraging force, which we all need.
Yeah.
We all need.
Yeah, I think the grief is so devastating, and also coupled with grief are some of the most profound life lessons to ever learn. And with his passing, something that I've learned about myself is just that the time to make is now, and that we have a duty to uplift each other. And I think that's really what he lived by. And
Hear.
Others. Yeah.
Yes, all the more reason to just show up every day.
Yeah.
Because you never know.
Show up hungry.
Yes. Are there any other artists around you in New York in general who you want to shout out right now as like influential?
Yeah. Heather Christian is so amazing. We love Heather. I saw Heather's piece, Tercha, which was at, I don't know where it was, but it was this amazing piece that involved like a mix of actors and musicians and also healthcare workers, and it felt, I didn't grow up going to church, but it felt like a very church-like experience. I think tercha means mass, like a 10 a.m. mass.
Okay.
But it used music in such a beautiful way, and I feel like she's really redefining what musical theater is. And I love that she's kind of a choral composer. And I find that really exciting that she writes for a sea of voices.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know your parents are very influential on you, and the clarinets are coming. They're a-coming in the album. Let's talk about, so when you and I started our work on the album, which was, I wrote this down, January of 2023. We finished December of 2024, so nearly 2 years of work. But when we long ago started our work, I wanted to make a playlist of references. We decided to make a playlist together so that I could get in your brain a little bit more. And I want to name some of the artists who are on that playlist, and then if you want to say any words about any of them, we can do that. Fiona Apple, Lucy Dacus, Andrew Bird, Boyish, Perfume Genius, Sammy Ray, Paramore. I knew all of those artists really except Boyish, so we had a lot of overlap, and also, yeah, I sort of went deep on thinking about how their work was produced and how they approach the studio. But putting that aside, what is it about these artists that you wanted to come through in your work?
That's so interesting to think about them as one. Because they're all so different, but they must share something. I feel like each of those artists has a very specific vision, specific freak that they follow.
I was just about to say, there's a freak.
There's a freak to all of them.
They let their freak flag fly.
Yeah, they really do. They know their freak.
Yes.
And they share their freak. Fiona feels like the touchstone for me. I really fell in love with her in high school, and I think she's all over the album. I think something that Fiona and Andrew and others I'm sure do is they include like soundscapes, especially Andrew. Andrew Bird loves the sounds of nature in his
big time
in his music. And I feel like Fiona's songs are so cinematic. Like I just see so much. We talked a lot about scope making this album and like the scope of a moment. If something feels like confessional in here versus like expansive and explosive and astral, like those kind of going back and forth. And I think she does that a lot, where you feel like she's like muttering to herself to a microphone, and then it feels like the world is ending. So I'm deeply inspired by the way she makes music in that way.
Cinematic.
Fiona
and Andrew Bird and Perfume Genius have like a cinematic quality.
Totally.
Sammy Ray and Paramore feel like their own little pair of like indie rock.
Yeah.
Like rock sound references.
Sammy Ray feels... I love Sammy Ray. I feel like Sammy Ray is just there because of How Goes Your Girl.
Totally.
But, I mean, she's an amazing vocalist and storyteller.
Absolutely.
Paramore feels... I love rock. I love the Paramore sound of rock. I think we referenced Misery Business.
Yes.
For a Feelingless song. And I think you can hear my love of rock throughout the album and like the moments of songs where they like expand and explode.
Do you feel like the album we made I don't mean like sounds like them in that we copied them. Do you feel like the DNA or the influence of these artists I've named made it into our album?
Yeah.
Cool.
1,000,000,000%.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about some other DNA questions. Do you feel like Monterey or like Central Cal, Sencal, made it into? I mean, it physically,
yeah.
The audio of it made it into the album.
Yes.
But do you think that vibe and that part of you made it in?
That's a good question. Yes. I mean, there's a theme of the whole album is definitely ocean, which feels very Sencal. It feels very coastal California. Like cover art is all about, like, all too much, the theme is overwhelm, and to me that feels very ocean. So I think in that way, that energy underwater, I don't know, it just feels like Monterey coastline has impacted me deeply on a psychological level.
Big time.
Yeah, and like I was saying with Interlochen, like nature is a big part of my my creative process. So I wrote most of these songs in Monterey during the pandemic. So
yes to all of that. I feel that in the work, just as a listener. And then another one for me is like, I feel like you're thinking and digesting your childhood a lot in it, all the way down to the last track, Not a Child, and that's where you grew up, and so it's like you're walking that landscape psychically through the album.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
So how much do you think your parents influenced you with this album?
So much. Yeah. Bringing up childhood is interesting because that's such a through line, and I think that's something I've been interested in with Mia in general. I almost left off of Mia there. I almost said Mia. Mia.
We must have all three.
We must have all three. Yeah, and childhood is linked to parents and feeling safe, and they were such supportive parents for my creative endeavors. I feel so lucky. I know that that's rare. I know it's rare to have parents who immediately take you seriously. My parents took me seriously at a very young age. Even with my song that my dad recorded in our car, they'd never be like, that was stupid or that was silly. Like
he's not laughing in that recording. He is silent. Trying to capture the fire hose of Freak.
Oh my god. Yeah, he does. I remember like creating as a child and having them give me very like technical positive feedback. Like they're like, that was a very interesting chord choice you just chose when I was like 6 and it was stupid. my song was dumb. But they were so empowering and I owe it all to them. They paid for music lessons and Interlochen, and I left high school for the last 2 years of high school. I did independent study so that I could do theater, and they were more than happy to do that. They've always taken my art seriously, and I think I could not have made this album without them.
Wow.
In all the ways.
Yes. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Let's dive into this album. It's called All Too Much. Your artist name is Mia. Let's start right there. How did you choose that artist name? 3 Mias.
3 Mias. I remember being on a call with Gavin and reading out a list of options. And it just felt like the best one. If you say it a bunch, it sounds like yummy.
Yum, yum, yum.
Yum, 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 yum. Yeah, I love circles, too, as an artist, and there's something that feels kind of circular about saying Mia 3 times. I don't know if that's more of a me thing. But yeah, and I love the number 3.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All Too Much. Tell us, unpack that as much as you wish to share.
Yeah. That was I think that was a curveball. I feel like we decided on something else.
I feel like I became a downer at a certain point. I was like, no.
Yeah.
And then eventually I feel like I had to be like, you are on your own.
Later. Yeah. That's why it was a curveball. Yeah, what was it for a while? You were interested in I'm fine, thanks. I have a list somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, All Too Much, it just I don't know, it just came to me one day. It felt, I liked that it was 3 words. I liked that it's 3 short words. And it felt like it encapsulated the through line of overwhelm.
Overwhelm.
Like needing to run away, like it's just all too much, I need to run away. It's all too much, I'm drowning, like kind of throughout the album. There's this, I think the music was written from a place of needing to escape and feeling like everything was all too much. So, yeah.
Okay.
Do you like it now?
I love it. No, I love it.
Good.
It's great. I love the album art. I love your whole approach. I think we came up with something really beautiful in totality, and each of the individual tracks are cool, and I think not only is it standalone beautiful, but I think it really does honor where you're at right now as an artist, and it's an amazing first offering.
Yeah, thank you.
Album-wise,
I agree.
Congrats to you.
Thank you. To us.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I'm my work or whatever it is that is my like fingerprint is on there, but I felt mostly like a doula, like just getting you to the end. Yeah. Because it was your journey, you know. I think that's the best job a producer could do, I guess, is it's not about the how crisp the audio is, or it's just how true is it to what the artist wanted to accomplish.
Yeah. I have that question for you later.
Yeah.
Just about, like, I think doula is a great word for how you approach this, which feels so from all angles. Like, you've taught me so much, literally, like, about what producing even is, and mixing and engineering. Like, you've just, through the whole 2-year journey, explained small things to me, explained big things to me, and I appreciate that so much. And I'm curious if you feel like you've found your own way into producing, or if you feel like what you are doing is kind of the standard, just because I've never worked with anyone else in terms of producing.
Yeah, I think the bug and the feature of the word producing is that it can mean anything these days. I think, like, just like theater, it can mean anything from, like, I gave money and, like, never entered the room, but I am important, like, legitimately, because I helped fund it, and I saw that it was important to invest in, all the way down to, like, I contributed this particular sound on this particular track, and there are 15 other producers on this track, but, like, my little thing I did is worthy of a producer credit, and everything in between. And so you kind of get to choose your own adventure. But I think, like, for most of us just who don't have a gajillion dollars and can't just, like, pay for everything to be done, and for those of us who have some skills to get it done ourselves, like, good producing is just filling in the cracks of, like, whatever the artist needs, you know, to help get it done. So if that means that I have to play most of the instruments, I'm going to do that. As long as you compensate me, like, which I'm so grateful you did. And mixing, if that needs to be done, mastering, if that needs to be done, I need to be ready to do it. Whether the project ends up needing it or not is up to the project, but I feel like that's the best modern producer, is one who's ready to do all of it. Easier said than done, and yeah, that's again part of, I guess, what my freaky thing is that I can do everything. Because like, I can name great producers who don't do all that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Does that begin to answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you've worked a lot with young, new, green singer-songwriters like myself. And I'm curious because you've also worked with people who've done this for years, decades. Yeah. I'm curious what your favorite part of working with, like, the newbie is. Or what you learned from that. I'm really skewing it to the positive. Like, what's your favorite part?
I think, like, just being being able to help them achieve their dreams, you know, and being an influential part of it. Like when they're younger and they don't know as much, you get to have a lot more influence. And as long as there's trust and respect, because it's not like talking down, you can never be like forcing your ideas or talking down or putting someone down because they don't know how to use a microphone or something. Right. Because as long as it's like a horizontal conversation, it's really powerful to be in someone's life. Just like I imagine being a doula for someone during their pregnancy would be like really powerful.
Totally.
And yeah, but like overall, my addiction, my like true thing that I'm obsessed with, that I always have been, is to just be in a studio. I just love being in the recording studio. I remember the first times just as a musician on a call, just showing up to a studio for a job and just being like, I love this so much more than performing, and I don't want to leave even if I'm not playing. Like I just want to be in this room. I've always loved studios, and that's kind of my addiction. And now like I have this space of my own, and so I get to come back to like the young artist thing, is like I get to create a safe place, a safe playground, which is like it's my place where I'm like addicted to be anyway, so I'm happy to be here, and then I get to like let someone play in this space. Yeah. It's a really, really, really gratifying feeling. Show the camera. Show the camera what you did. Come to the front of the class. Show us your drawing.
Do you want me to present it, or am I sad about showing you the drawing? Oh, are you going to see my notes?
I think we're good. Oh, wow. Reveal. It's all scripted. It's all scripted. Nothing's real.
You'll just see social media. I hate it, LOL.
Yeah. Okay, well, I want to talk about the album, but yeah, before we do, because I want to finish with the album, with the walkthrough. Let's talk about social media. I feel like this feeds into me asking you about what it's like to be a Gen Z performer.
Totally.
Yeah, I feel like it's an interesting time, and Gen Z is finally coming into its own, and I don't know. I'm interested to hear. I feel like sometimes I know and sometimes I don't know what's going on. But let's talk about social media. I feel like I'm gonna ask you about your relationship. Let me hit record. I'm going to ask you about your relationship to social media, but I know that this is not an even playing field, because I, as your producer, was like constantly pressuring you to do more social media. Yeah. And I feel like I wasn't too toxic about it, but I was trying to encourage you to do it more for the sake of sharing your music and spreading it as widely as possible. Yeah. So, but you can be honest with me. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. No, I'm kidding. No, tell me, what's today? How are you feeling about social media?
That's a great way to phrase it.
Yeah.
How am I feeling today about social media?
This is in the context of being an artist.
Yeah.
You don't have to get into personal stuff.
It's hard not to, though. Should I move it back?
Just not while you're talking. Not in the middle.
Because it'll be like,
yeah.
I see.
Let's move it. Yeah, that's fine.
This is how serious I am about social media. We need to put the mic dead center. I, as a Gen Z artist, social media ruined so much of my brain at a young age. Like, I got Facebook when I was 9. I lied. I said I was 11 or 12, however old you have to be. And it just was a wave of content that a young mind should not be exposed to. Addiction, like early tech addiction, Skype, but also such a creative awakening to see all these music videos, TV shows, movies, without parental supervision, to like witness art unfiltered by a parent at 9 or 10 is crazy. Yeah. And I guess we've always had access to it, but not like now. So I'm going to try to keep this brief. I recognize the power of social media. I recognize that it can fully employ people. That's amazing. Like, to work, to be your own CEO as a creator, and like, I love sharing my music online and visuals online to my community. I still struggle with feeling inspired to post and not feeling like I'm making commercials out of something that I want to be appreciated in a deep, spiritual, full
100%.
attention way.
Yes.
So I think the attention span of social media is at odds with how I want people to experience what I create and why I create. And I feel very intense about the why I create. I think because I'm in the theater, and that to me feels like I've reckoned more with the business side of theater. So music to me, there's more pressure on it being sacred. However, I know social media is part of it. I haven't gigged at all, and I know that gigging, there's so much BS you have to deal with in order to sell yourself, and you have to grow. The ideal future of an artist is like, yeah, I would love to have more listeners. So I feel like I'm going through what I went through with theater in 2019, which is just like swallowing the pill of like, how do we exist as an artist in a capitalist society?
Yes.
A capitalist society.
In the machine.
In the machine.
Like, you don't even sometimes get to be a gear. You just get to be the thing that's being ground down by the machine.
Yeah.
You know? You invoked, though, also CEO, the role of CEO. Do you feel like a brand or a business sometimes? Do you feel like sometimes you're, instead of sharing your little freak flag piece of art, that you have to be like a brand or a business?
Yeah, I do. I chose an artist name for a reason as well. I did not want... I wanted to create in kind of a persona, not fully a persona because I think it's super vulnerable, but at the same time I wanted separation from personal, and so I think that is tied into it of like, if I have to generate content more often and like put my own face out there and sell my music, like where's the line? And I early on, and like during the pandemic, I established that boundary, but I think the more I create, the more I realize that you have to be more loose with it, especially starting out.
Yes.
As when you have no money.
Yeah, totally.
You can't afford a boundary all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope one day to make so much money that I can literally just stop thinking about it and just make whatever I want and not worry about whether it needs listeners or not. Right. Although a lot of the work I make, I do want it to like bring people peace and joy and whatever other feelings I want it to bring.
And I think what you do so well with Chow Chow is that you have, first of all, the animations are beautiful and elevate the music, which is amazing. And you have all this content to output. It never feels like, I feel like you can create a lot without it feeling like the boundary remains, you know. That is Chow Chow. And you've found your way to create and post in a way that does feel very creative and earnest and true to that brand or persona, I should say.
Yeah, I think that's a helpful distinction. I am not as comfortable just like being on camera, presenting my body, myself all the time. So I tried to come up with a way that would allow me to post at high volume.
Yeah.
That felt true to me and felt true to the vibe of the art, of the music. And it has been an unlock for me.
I mean, Chow Chow exploded. What did you learn from that explosion in terms of having something without your face or name on it? Like, kind of an anonymous, like you wrote a book under a pseudonym and that book exploded.
Yeah. What have I learned?
Yeah.
I think I always had this feeling that like I don't need to be famous. Like I don't want to be recognized. I would really prefer to mostly have my anonymity. Like in my own music world and theater industry and I want my peers to recognize me. That's kind of what I crave in terms of as far as fame goes. Like I want my peers to respect me and know me. But I don't really want to be known worldwide. I feel like we're all a little broken and we all have our different like psychological things that are broken about us, but that part of me is not broken for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Like I don't crave that and I'm so happy that I don't.
Yeah.
So it's totally fine to just be behind some animations. And in a lot of ways, I think visually, like, that is the best manifestation of what the music feels like. Like, I don't think there is a way that I could visually achieve exactly how the music feels to me right now with the resources I have. So instead, better to find a collaborator and trust their expertise and just go deep on that. And it's been really fruitful. I can't even remember exactly what the question was, but I feel like
that was
that okay?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. You're here.
Well, while we're on that, let's talk about the album art for All Too Much. How did you find the artists, the collaborator?
Yeah.
How did you think about what to find?
I think I made a list of just people that I followed on Instagram a long time ago. I've always been interested in visual arts, so I've followed a lot of accounts. And I combed through the accounts that I followed and tried to look for the similarities of what interests me visually. And again, with like discussions of childhood, I wanted something that felt childlike for the album cover. I wanted something that felt real, especially in a digital age. I wanted to see the strokes of a pencil or paint. I just wanted that, like, this is made by hands instead of Procreate, which is super cool. I've recently learned about Procreate. Anyway. And then I wanted to work with another AAPI artist, so I Googled AAPI artist based in New York, and then I found the amazing Kyung Jun, who has painted so many beautiful works, and I feel like they're all like a cool intersection of like grotesque and adult and pained, but then very childlike. She draws these figures that have like huge heads and tiny bodies, and has made a lot of work about endometriosis. Yeah, she's so cool, and I remember looking through her website and then seeing a few shadow boxes, and that to me was like a huge flame, just like, oh, this is exciting to me. I want to create something that feels three-dimensional. So I emailed her and she emailed me back, and then we started working together, and she's so wonderful. And I had a pretty clear vision of what I wanted the cover to be, but by nature of collaboration, I think we found something new and cool, and I feel so proud of it, that it's this like puppet show almost that we've created that can move. Cool. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the music of All Too Much, which is why we're here today.
Yeah, it is.
I want to go track by track. I have some comments, but mostly I just want to hear any thoughts you have. I want you to share any memories of recording and also talking about the song, hearing about what went into writing the song.
Got it.
The track. Do you even think of them as songs? Let's start there.
Some of them. Some of them. I feel like the singles and Feelingless song, those all feel like songs. But then, I don't know, we'd refer to some of them as interludes even. Right.
So, How Goes Your Girl is the opener of the album, and it's pretty fitting because that is one of the tracks that you brought to me first when we first started. And I started playing around, and you were liking the stuff that I was playing around just as like a mock-up, and we took it from there. I will tell you, we landed on version 18.2 was the final one, which means we went through 18 different versions of adding recordings. This is my system that I use. And then the 0.2 means it's the second mix of version 18. So there were many other mixes in between, and there were 17 other versions of adding music or maybe even taking away. That's a lot. Like for Chow Chow, I probably end up on like V2 or 3. We really went deep on all these tracks, and I work in Logic, the DAW, for those of you keeping track at home, and my Logic session for How Goes Your Girl, I just looked, had 273 tracks on it. It's difficult to even load or just have anything play at this point. Most of the tracks are muted, to be fair, but it just gives you a sense of how much we tried, and also how many sounds are unmuted and actually playing. There's a lot of layers in this one.
Yeah.
Tell us about How Goes Your Girl.
Yeah, I want to apologize to your computer.
That's what it's there for.
It's what it's there for. But I've heard that fan so many times.
Yes.
Over the past 2 years. I wrote this. I think this was the only song that I've written at the piano. And at first, I think I wrote it in like 2018, I want to say, and it's very simple. It's very repetitive. It felt like tongue-in-cheek and chipper, and I think at the time I was excited about playing a whole song. It's kind of like cloying, just like moving down the piano in octaves and then moving back up. But I just felt like it had so much potential in terms of different kind of genres. And I think I came to you pitching that each verse sounds like a different genre of music. And then I love where we landed, where it just feels like each verse, the song is getting like richer and bigger. And there still is like a bit of a channel change, I'd say. I love the sound effects that we've put in there. I feel like we go just far enough into absurdity and then like pull back a little bit. I think I wanted like, I'm trying to think of other sounds that I wanted. You were like, no. And you're like, no.
Some of the sounds, I was just like, no, I think the song is selling itself well enough. Totally. But then others, like, we tried and recorded, and it just wasn't reading. Yeah. Some of the time there's just too many sounds going.
There's too many sounds.
Even if it's a good idea, you just got to choose which you want to keep in.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Yeah. I feel like we're in a good balance of too many sounds, and you can still hear what's going on.
Yes. And this track is the first of a few where our dear friend Kyle Bren is playing drums.
Yes.
And
shout out.
Kyle plays some unbelievable drums on this track, especially in the final ramp up.
And yes, he does.
Yes, in this gospel breakdown that we do, he really let it fly, and it was really fun to record on top of what he did. He is an unbelievable drummer, which is like, you know, maybe like his third best thing that he does in art. I don't know. He's like an actor and a copyist and a composer and a recordist. He's just got so much going on. Yeah. But then he is unbelievable on the drums.
He is. Yeah. Shout out to his recent album, Shape of a Child. I believe that's what it's called. It's so good. It's so good.
I still haven't listened to the whole thing, but what I have listened to, I fucking love.
It's amazing. Yeah. So capable.
And he's not the only freak on the gospel ramp up at the end.
That's true.
I should say most of this track we recorded actually at my apartment before I moved to the studio.
Yeah.
That's how long ago we started working on this album. And the day we recorded a lot of the backing vocals, I would say half the backing vocals was at my apartment.
Yeah.
With Maya.
With Maya Lagerstam. Amazing performer. I want to turn.
Tell
performer.
Yeah.
Maya Lagerstam is an amazing performer.
An Interlochen buddy, right?
Interlochen buddy. We met at Interlochen. And now she's in Shucked on tour.
Yes.
Bringing the house down. She can sing like no other.
That was the night I met Maya, I believe.
I think so.
And we were just dying on the floor. We barely got through recording.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it was just so rip-roaring chaos. Yeah. We recorded some of the other backing vocals at Keyboard Heaven. It's you, me, Kyle.
Yeah.
Maya.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love that.
And then Bobby and Emily are killing it on the horns.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing horn players. Husband and wife team in Brooklyn who are good buddies of ours.
Yeah.
They absolutely threw down many layers of saxes and trumpet and trombone. Let's keep moving. So there are 2 interludes on this album.
Yeah.
The first, very courageously, is the second track of this album.
Yeah.
In 2, 3, 4, which used to be called Feelingless Interlude, I think.
Yeah,
Tell us about it.
I just want to say that this was like a last minute call to name the interludes what they're named.
Yeah.
And I don't think we've ever talked about
We haven't.
So I'd love to know your thoughts on or off camera.
I love what you did with it. I love what you did with the place. It was unexpected to see it when the album dropped, and I was like, this is so cool and so true to you.
Yeah.
And it does help me, it does like propel me forward through the album to see that there's like gonna be, it's not about payoff, but that there's just like some thought all the way through, because then we get out 2, 3, 4 later.
Yeah.
So it's cool that you connected them. But it used to be Feelingless Interlude, and how did it come about? What happened?
I think this is one of the, we created this together.
Yeah.
You recorded the guitar part like section at a time, and
one note at a time.
One note at a time, because it's so fast. And yeah, I feel like this feels like to me you're the most mic offering on this album in the best way.
Yeah.
And we edited some of my mom in there. It just feels like, I feel like the final product is so meditative. Like when I first heard it, it felt, I think that's why In 2, 3, 4, Out 2, 3, 4 is named what they are, because it felt like this cleanse moment. And I love what you did with it. Yeah.
I can't remember when you came up with wanting interludes. Was that from the beginning, or was it something we developed along the way?
I think it was from the beginning. I remember in high school loving one of Alt J's albums. And they had a few interludes, and I just loved them.
Yes.
I loved the interludes. I think they're called Interlude. So I think it was the plan all along. I might have wanted more tracks to make an album.
Yeah. Make sure that there's 8.
Yeah.
Okay. I could go.
Strap in.
Buckle up.
Buckle up.
This is the big one. How Goes Your Girl was 273 tracks. I Could Go, the session was 407 tracks. Again, like many muted, but it gives you a sense of the layers that we built on. I almost think of like a painting that's like, when you see it in a museum, that's like just thick. You can see all the layers that the artist put on.
Thick song.
It's She Thick. It's a V14.7. So it's the 14th version, and it's the 7th mix. Wow. So we arrived at some point where we knew we didn't want to add anymore, but then we had to get through 7 mixes.
Wow.
It's a big one. In a way, kind of like How Goes Your Girl, it's like a bunch of songs in one, so it does make sense that these ended up being so hulking.
Yeah.
It was the process that the song needed.
Mm-hmm. And in many ways, I'm most proud of it.
Yeah.
Like, I think the work shows. The work paid off.
This is another one that's kind of a little... Is it earlier in your songwriting chronology compared to others, would you say?
Yeah. I would say How Goes Your Girl and I Could Go were both written pre-pandemic. I think that's... And Underwater was written in the pandemic, and then Not a Child was written... Seeds of Not a Child were written pre-pandemic. But I Could Go... I remember ditching class one day in, I think, January, February of 2020, and feeling really overwhelmed. And going to Tompkins Square Park and starting to, like, sing a tune into my phone. And so there are the lyrics about, like, a mumbling girl and dogs and their owners are walking past because I was in Tompkins Square Park. So that kind of beginning started there, and then I think the chorus came later, and then I stitched them together after that because they feel like they're similar thoughts.
Were you sitting on Instagram in Tompkins Square Park?
Probably. Probably. I bet that I started doing this voice memo to, like, break free from Instagram.
Okay, yeah.
Like, you know when you're stuck and you just need to, like, create something to get out of feeling stuck?
Yes.
Tech addiction-wise?
Yes. This one feels the most Fiona Apple to me. In terms of... You were doing this motion earlier, the expansion and contraction, and also even just sonically, I feel like we were really inspired and we wanted to go with this, like, kind of cinematic, weird, like, handmade wind-up doll thing.
Totally. Fiona's so angry, like, I feel like her anger fuels a lot of her writing, but then chooses really, like, chipper instruments or like has some childlike, like, it just feels like sweet poison is her vibe, and so I definitely borrowed from that. And I remember we pulled, like, some brushes from Every Single Night. I believe Every Single Night has brushes in the second verse.
Yes, all kinds of Every Single Night sounds. I think the Celesta was a big inspo. I mean, that whole album is so tremendous with all the sounds. I feel like, what's it called? Hot Knife?
The song?
Yeah.
Hot Knife,
Hot Knife.
Yeah,
I feel
classic.
like sonically that was another big inspiration too for us.
Yeah, absolutely. This song to me, I was just gonna say, this song feels like the heart of the album. Like, I feel like this is the thesis. In some ways.
It's such a strong one. Probably the strongest thing about this track that I'm disappointed you haven't mentioned is that I did some really strong barking on it. I think it really holds the track together. And
you did do some strong barking.
I think we ended up bringing in some actual dog sounds.
Yeah.
But a little bit of me is tucked in the mix.
Yeah.
Are you too, right?
I think I have, like, higher barking sounds, but I think you went for, like, the big boy barking sound. And I think it's on video somewhere.
What? What is that? No, I think just maybe a single howl is the best. That's the thing.
Really producer.
Whatever needed.
Needs,
the producer has to make it happen. That's my only regret is that I don't own a dog and couldn't just
make it bark.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad you don't own a dog.
Right.
I'm glad you barked.
That would have been so that I could bark.
Yeah.
Olive Tree.
Yeah, Olive Tree. I mean, do you want to speak to Olive Tree and Feeling This first?
The thing I want to say... Oh, yeah, well, I mean, they're connected. You've always thought of them as connected, we should say. And I'm so happy we were able to execute that, and it feels so nice when they just flow into one another. The thing I want to say is, like, you have so many specific ideas at times, and it's so powerful because, like, with this one, I feel like we did wander a little bit, but eventually you were like, no, it needs to be this. And it's actually really helpful when the artist or the collaborator just, like, makes a choice, is decisive.
Yeah.
And you were, I feel, very decisive about the sounds that needed to be in this one.
In Olive Tree?
In Olive Tree.
Yeah. Yeah. It was such a... I'm so grateful to have learned how to make an album with you you make a space very safe. And I felt like I was navigating the whole time constantly, like, when should I stand my ground and when should I bend? And it's both. You got to do both. But I'm glad that we ended up where we did with Olive Tree. Yeah.
Did the lyrics come first for this one? Do you remember?
This was, so Olive Tree and Feelingless, I think they were one track.
Gavin.
Made, for the Gavin songwriting group. I think it's even, the name of it is, like, For Gavin or something.
For Gavin.
But I was sitting in my front yard in, I think, our Nissan Leaf during the pandemic. And I just started... I don't remember if the lyrics came first. I think I just started singing one line based off of what I was seeing, and then I harmonized. So one of those lines is the melody.
Wow,
like
so you were garage banding.
I was garage banding
in the driveway.
Car. Yeah, in the driveway. I find so much creativity in the car, which is another hard part about New York.
Yes, that does feel very California.
Totally.
There's a producer I love, Blake Mills, artist, producer, who also loves to record in the car.
It's
and
so...
He's an LA person.
Yourself. Yeah, oh my gosh, if I was in LA. Yeah, you can hear yourself so well. Like, singing in the car is so nice. Because you can hear your voice.
So, Olive Tree and Feelingless go together. Tell me about Feelingless and tell me about why you wanted to pair them.
Yeah, I'm remembering now. The prompt in Gavin and I's writing group was to write a feelingless song. I think I came up with that prompt, but I guess that's why I was sitting in my driveway saying things that I was seeing, because I was trying to come up with something that had no emotion behind it.
Oh,
just like
neutral description.
Neutral descriptions.
And then your next attempt was, this song is a feelingless song.
Yeah, this song is a
Absolutely nothing is what I feel.
Yeah. So I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, you nailed it. That's a bullseye.
Yeah. And so much feeling comes through in the feelingless song.
That's why they go together.
That's why they go
and
together.
Yet musically there's such
So
a
different.
contrast.
Yeah. I think also with feelingless song, I wanted to choose, I was just like fucking with sound and like I didn't want anything to make sense. So now there are two songs, but originally I was like, screw this song. It's gonna be like 6 minutes long and gonna take a total turn halfway through because it's feelingless. And
then this is another feature from, as we get into feeling the song, this is another feature from Kyle Bren.
Oh my gosh. Peak Kyle. There
Ridiculous.
I love his performance in this.
I was blown away, and actually this very what do you call this thermos that I'm drinking from? Hydro Flask, right? Sponsored video. This very Hydro Flask is what Kyle is hitting at the very end of Feeling the Song. So powerful, so cool.
So powerful, yeah. Breakbeat, that's what I learned that day. What a breakbeat.
Yeah, breakbeat, jungle.
Yeah.
He threw down.
I want to shout out the French computer voice that we put in that I'm so happy stayed in. I forget his name. It's like Pierre or something.
Yeah. Oh, Jacques. Yeah, maybe.
I don't give a fuck.
I don't give a fuck. So we, yeah, there. I don't give a fuck is a lyric in the song, and we decided to map that onto the different accessibility voices that my laptop has, and one of them was somehow a French accent was permissible.
Yeah.
We did a couple others, right?
We did. I think we did British. And I don't know who made it on. Frenchman made it on the album.
I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck.
Oh my god, I could do this all day. Thomas.
I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck.
Thomas.
Oh, Susanna.
I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck.
Wow, I appreciate their accents.
Really fun. A lot of space alien freaky noises. I remember that was another session when we were exploring the alien noises where we were laughing on the ground. We couldn't stop.
Yeah. Chaos.
I felt like there were some days where once I pulled up a synth for you, you would just go to town on it for like 10 minutes and there was no way to stop you, regardless of whether we were recording or not.
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard you say this too. It's like Olive Tree Feeling a song. It's like also kind of transitioning us into this darker part of the album, or like a different. The album takes a tonal change. Can you describe that tonal change, or maybe is Underwater just the way that it comes out?
Yeah, I think. I mean, I thought so much about order. I feel like every session I would come up to you and be like, I changed the order again because I felt it important to have an arc. I feel like the journey of this album is like expanding due to pressure, but then like in 2, 3, 4 is like a calming breath. Like it's all about trying to contain something that's inevitably going to explode. And I Could Go feels like so much pressure. Olive Tree feels like trying to calm down. Feeling the Song feels like an explosion. And I think that gets us to a place in Underwater which really, to me, feels like we've reached the breaking point. And, like, now we can be honest. It's a very, like, vulnerable, confessional song. And then Out 2, 3, 4 is, like, the final meditation before we can get to, like, a very earnest finale.
Underwater, for me, I feel like was the first time that I saw Bjork in your music, and we've talked about it. I've been trying to get you into Bjork for years at this point.
Yeah.
I hope one day there'll be a Bjork chapter.
I'm not into Bjork.
Right.
But
I don't
could
want
be deeper into Bjork.
Yeah, I don't want to frame it as like you're a Bjork hater.
No, never.
I hear Bjork so much in Underwater, especially the Medulla album. Another freak. Another absolute freak.
Maybe the freak.
Yes, the mother freak. The matriarch freak. Out 2, 3, 4. Tell us, what are we hearing in that track?
You are hearing my childhood bedroom door opening, and then you're hearing the nightscape. That's what we called the track for a long time. But the night landscape, and you hear the crickets, and maybe some frogs, maybe some owls. The sounds of my childhood bedroom at night, and then you hear my mother practicing from 2 rooms over. So it's like a soundbite of my childhood. And I'm very happy that we put it on there.
Yeah, me too. So all you did was open the door, listen, and close it again? You weren't moving at all?
No.
Wow.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you so graciously gave me your Zoom mic.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of takes of me, like, accidentally touching the mic, or me being like, fuck. So I'm, like, trying to open the door quietly.
So what take was that?
probably like 11 or something. I don't know.
That's amazing.
Yeah, my mom was also practicing for a concert where I believe she was playing Cats. Like Memory or something from Cats. You can hear her go like but she's going like she's practicing that phrase. So Cats the musical is on the album.
Wow. In like a fragmented
way. Yeah.
So your mom so far on clarinet only appears in the interludes.
Mm-hmm.
She is doing some crazy extended technique stuff in 2-3-4.
Mm-hmm.
And then she makes another appearance in out 2-3-4. But then Not a Child, finally
her moment.
And it's perfect, and this was really smart of you. But you're making a song about feeling like you understand or you have some sort of grip on your relationship with your parents and with yourself as your child self, but you're also walking on, you're moving on. But your mom on the clarinet is like this presence throughout.
Yeah.
And we had a day where she came over and recorded everything, but Not a Child was like the majority of the recording, and I made this big arrangement where she layered herself many times, and it's basically only clarinets are the only orchestral instruments on the track.
Yeah.
What else do you want people to know about this composition?
Yeah, I started writing this. Shout out to this show that I was working on at school. It was a student project. Lucas Castro's project at NYU with my very good friend Alex Bush, who was directing it. The show was about, we were devising a show about pop stars, and we were given writing prompts, and we like deep listened to St. Vincent's Mass Seduction, which was so exciting. And it got my brain thinking about music in a new way. So this came from that show process of, I think, writing about, like, something about growth. Like, the prompt was something about growth. And so I started writing this. I was staying at Stephanie Shu's apartment, my friend Stephanie Shu, great apartment in Park Slope. And I think it was like 12 like midnight, or later even, and that's when I was recording this because it was due the next day. Wow. So it started, again with a prompt. Like, prompts are so fruitful.
Yes.
Because you don't know where that song could go. And I really appreciated, I don't know when the clarinet conversation came in, because I don't think I came in with the song thinking that we would have my mom play on it. I feel like that was a discovery.
What I remember, I mean, we worked a lot together on the chords, and we talked a lot about what the instruments could be, but at a certain point you were like, I think for certain sections I want there to be only clarinets. And then I think from there we were like, well, what if there's, a full clarinet arrangement on the track?
Yeah. We were talking about a children's choir for a second.
Yes, we came so close.
Next time.
I think this is a really beautiful composition. It's really emotional. And, I mean, I love all my children equally. But there's something about this track. I don't know. I really like the composition. I really like what we did. And it makes me, I would say, the most emotional when I listen to it. I love your performance on it. Some unbelievable vocals, especially near the end. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the process of recording the vocals for this album, or if you have any memories of recording Not a Child, because you, for some tracks, ended up recording many, many different times over many different months. Illness.
Or just wanting to have a better take.
Self-critique.
Self-critique.
Sometimes we trashed it and redid the whole thing, but other times we actually just like punched in many months later. But there even are things in this album that are from the very first day that you recorded vocals. So I don't know, anything you want to share about recording vocals on this?
For this track or all of them? If
you have memories of any, let's hear them.
Yeah, it's nice to talk to you about this because it's just making me realize how much I haven't processed.
Yeah.
Just like how 2 years of work, and showing up and like not just doing something for the first time. You just learn so much, and you have to confront so much.
Yes.
Of like your own ego and fear, especially creating. Yeah, like I said before, I feel like I've grown so much more comfortable in the booth, even throughout the course of recording this album. That being said, I do remember a part of How Goes Your Girl, like a improv in the end was like the first take. I didn't even think I was recording.
Yeah.
I think I was like, maybe I'll try something like this, and then you fought to keep it in. I'm so grateful you fought to keep it in. Because there is a magic to the first time you do something. And sometimes practice makes something better, but
Yes.
yeah, I have learned so much about my voice and like trusting my voice, and it's funny coming in to an album recording session for your own work because I don't know, like coming from musical theater, there are these rules in your head about placement and diction, and you have a music director who's giving you like tips on what they want something to sound like. And I think you did a little bit of that for me, and I think I asked you a few times, like, should this sound more like this or this? But you make your own roadmap, which is, I think, has made me a better singer in so many ways of thinking about choices and storytelling in, like, a really personal way, which I should have been doing all along in theater. But, and I did. But, like, this, putting your own heart out there in an album, like you really think about choice.
Yes.
And I feel like we showcase so much of my voice, which I'm really excited about, and Not a Child specifically feels like this vocal foil in so many ways to the rest of the album. It's like lighter and softer, and I'm really proud of how many different sides of my voice we showed off. And yeah, it's sometimes the first take is the best, sometimes the take 2 years later is the best.
Yes. Yes. If nothing else, I shouldn't say that, but if nothing else, like, I am proud that we were able to just capture all the things your voice can do. There's probably even more, but we captured a massive range of where your voice is at in this time period, and you'll always have that, like, time capsule.
Yeah.
I'm proud of that work we did.
Me too.
You pushed yourself a lot.
You pushed me in the best way. Yeah. I love how you react to takes. Because you're always supportive, but I think you can beat that. Like, it's like a great coach. You're a great, like, sports coach as a singer records their takes. Like, it's not mean. Like, it's just like, you can beat that.
I love that. I love that mentality, because it's like so many subjective things in life, and I feel like we're also going through this politically. Like, it's just not really fair, and it's actually kind of toxic to just start measuring yourself against other people.
Yeah.
But what we can do is ask more of ourselves in the places that we can do more.
Totally.
And so, yeah, part of the problem of you having such an amazing voice is if I know you can do better, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, to bring it back full circle, you have to measure that against, like, are we toxically trying to go for 100 out of 100 here?
Right.
Or are we going to honor the song and meet ourselves where we are today?
Yeah.
It's a rolling convo.
Yeah.
That we have as we build it.
Yeah. Again, with ego conversation in making an album, I've appreciated our talks about perfection, and just, like, pop music today is so perfect, like, tuned. It's just millions of dollars poured into making something sound perfect. And so I do hear, moments of this album and I'm like, that's a little pitchy, or like that vowel's a little weird, but it's a performance. Like,
right.
we're not trying to make this like weird AI filtered version of ourselves.
Right. The goal is not to be correct on pitch and rhythm. The goal is to reach people.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, we don't want to let it just be like flubby whatever nonsense.
Right.
But we have to stay focused on, like, are we going to reach people emotionally with this? And there's a lot of music that's being made right now that is correct in pitch and rhythm, and it makes me feel absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
They are feelingless songs.
Yeah.
And that's not what we made. We made something that's intended to actually, like, acknowledge the humanity in this modern hellscape.
Yeah.
So All Too Much is out now. Congratulations, Mia.
Thank you so much for having me. Cheers.
Cheers.